Hello and welcome back once again to Jump To It for IrishRacing.com and our action-packed weekend ahead of us. There is plenty of action all over the place, both in the UK and in Ireland. We've got Oaks trials, we've got Derby trials, we've got lots more action, including Haydock, Naas, plenty to get to, plenty of tips to come your way during the show. But to help me preview some of the big events and also giving me their expert tips, I have Vincent Finegan from IrishRacing.com and Ed Quigley. Now chaps, there's been some midweek action at Chester, of course, some interesting upsets happening. Ed, take us through some of your eye catchers and maybe some of the disappointments that we saw at Chester.
Yeah, indeed. I can't pretend I've seen every single race going on at Chester. It's been a busy week, Joe, but yeah, some of the how should you say, the displays that have been jumping off the page, naturally changing of the guard for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. A wonderful ride from Ryan Moore, as is often the case at Chester. If you can get on the front end there on that tight, quirky track and dictate matters, it can be very hard to pass. Nonetheless, changing the guard made all and saw it out very nicely. New London, who was the 4-11 favourite on that occasion, had absolutely no answers. So obviously changing of the guard has put himself in the Derby picture, along with Star of India, who got the job done on Thursday afternoon in pretty good style, has to be said, in the D Stakes. Took a long time to get going, I thought, in my view. Didn't have that kind of push-button response. Was one of the first off the bridle. But all that mattered was the first past the post. Once Ryan Moore got the gap in the home straight and he got going, he seems to have a proper long stride. Interesting with the Derby in mind. I mean, we were talking off air earlier, myself and Vincent. Easy to envisage Ballydoyle having half a dozen runners in the Derby at this stage. They seem to have so many different horses and angles in here. But yeah, out the two, probably changing the guard despite having the run of the race. I think probably be the two out of those two I would side with. I thought Star of India might be more of an even longer term prospect, something like the Ledger. I think a mile 6, he looks much more of a galloping type in my view. But look, yeah, lots of water under the bridge between now and then. But yeah, Team Ballydoyle in absolute red hot form.
Great stuff. All right, well, let's get into it, chaps. Let's go into our upcoming races and preview. We've got 7 where we're going to go in depth for you in the show. And Vincent, we're going to kick off with you. We're going to look at Naas in the 325, a Group 3 on the flat. So looking at the form scan on IrishRacing.com, it looks like Lily Pond is the one to beat here. But take us through the card and how you're seeing this race shape up.
Yeah, we've a very busy weekend in Ireland, as you alluded to there. We've got Cork Jump meeting on Saturday as well, and we've Naas, and then we've Leopardstown Sunday. So the first race we're going to look at is this Blue Wind Stakes. It's a Fillies race over 1.25 miles. And Lily Pond wouldn't be one for me now. I know that our form scan on the site is tipping it up, but Lily Pond is just one of Maiden and Dundalk. I wasn't that impressed. I don't think that, look, obviously it's Aidan O'Brien, so they can improve rapidly. But for me, the one to concentrate on here is the one that will probably be favoured, is Dermot Wells, Eclat de Lumiere. It was a 7 furlong winner at the Curragh when last seen. And on my book, this is by Sea the Stars, the trip and the better ground here, the extra trip, it's up to 1.25 miles here, and better ground would really suit. The race that it ran in the Curragh, the 2nd and 3rd haven't run since, but the 5th, 6th and 7th all won next time out. The 8th also won since. In this race, we're looking at, there's 7 runners. 4 of them are trained by Joseph O'Brien, Aidan's son, and there's a couple of them that I wouldn't be mad about. One of them is a thing called Abdullah. That has a chance. It's a course winner, but it's tongue strap first time out. Wouldn't be too keen on that. You have Tossin Lydia, which is also a course winner, but it won an auction maiden. People would be looking at that, seeing it's won twice, unbeaten. But for me, that's a no. I don't think it's up to this standard. And he's also got a maiden in it called River Rain, which I wouldn't be particularly keen on either. The one that the best of his is probably Tranquil Lady. It was 4th to Concert Hall in the Salsable Stakes at Navan. The thing with that is that there's a horse in here. She's probably going to be a biggish price as Sister Bridget, but she's only a length behind Tranquil Lady that day. That was a good run from her. She's been pretty consistent, and they keep going for these better races. Adrian Murray trains her. But for me, overall, I think the Wells filly will win, Eclat de Lumiere.
Great stuff. All right, and now we're going to move on to a bit of a lottery. So Ed, I'm going to put you on the spot here to preview the Victoria Cup at Ascot. 28 runners, big field. I mean, yeah, any sort of angle for you looking at this one?
Well, I suppose the first place to start is Dark Shift, who arrives on a hat trick and has some scintillating form at the course. I think it's 3 wins from 4 at the track. Look, comes alive at this venue. 7 furlongs. Ascot ticks all the niche boxes. Charlie Hill's team in good form, just creeping up the handicap to marker 91 now. It's probably not my modus operandi to get stuck into a 7-1 jolly in a 28-runner race when there's this stage of recording so many unknowns, a draw bias. I mean, the ground looks like it's drying out. It's officially good now with bright sunshine coming, so I imagine it'll be on the quicker side. All in all, a pretty tricky head scratcher. I'm going to be having splinters in my backside here. I did think if there was enough juice in the ground, River Nymph would be interesting for the Clive Cox team. That horse has slipped down the weights a little bit, been a bit disappointing lately. But again, is a horse who won this race last year, has dropped back to workable mark. But again, last year's run was on pretty much soft ground. Conditions look as though they're going to be a bit quicker here. So you can kind of pick holes in all of them, to be honest with you. And I'm not going to lie to Jump to It viewers. This is a race I will not be getting involved in.
Exactly. One to play it safe, I think. But Vincent, any kind of angle for you looking at the Victoria Cup?
Yeah, the first thing to take note of here is this is a 7 furlong race. And you tend to find there's 7 furlong specialists. 2 of them, Ed mentioned here, Dark Shift, which you say is a 3-time course winner, and River Nymph, which has won over the course and distance twice. The thing for me here as well is the draw is an interesting thing here. You tend to need a higher draw number. And Dark Shift is in 4, while River Nymph is in 28. So of the pair of them, I'd be more inclined to go River Nymph. The other one here, there's an interesting horse for me from a while back, is Mum's Tipple. She looked a world beater when she started her 2-year-old career. Unreal. She started in one of those sales races in York, and she absolutely bolted up that day. What was it, 11 lengths or something she won? Like
11 lengths. I thought she was going to be the new Aasy or something, wasn't it, at one stage? It was unbelievable.
She got a rating of he got a rating of 116 after that. And is down now, first time under 100, 99. But the draw would be a question mark here. Mum's Tipple, even at a big price, is drawn 1, so that's a no. The other things to look at here, John Gosling, he's got a 20% strike rate in Ascot, and the Tory rides his one, Magical Morning. It was third in the Balmoral's handicap over this course last October. That was the last time it was seen. But the thing there is, this horse definitely looks like a miler, not a 7 furlong horse. So I'd be ruling that one out. Another one that's up towards the head of the betting, also towards the head of the weights, is one ruler of Godolphin horse at Charlie Appleby's. Again, that looks like a miler. I don't think that would figure either over this 7 furlongs. That's my only real opinion on it. I think it's one of these pin stickers, but at the same time, there's a couple of the more fancied ones I really wouldn't be with.
No, I did we did task Stephen Harris with his tips as well, and he did look at Magical Morning at 12-1 in the Victoria Cup. So just if you are keeping an eye on Stephen's tips, then maybe one to keep an eye on as well. But now we're going to move on to Haydock. Sorry, so Ed, this is perhaps more in favour for you. Take us through the Swinton Handicap Hurdle.
Yeah, a lovely mixed card at Haydock. Worth bearing in mind, it's pretty much sun everywhere, it seems, in the UK at the moment. But the northwest have been getting some rain. I think it's good to softer places at the time of recording with more rain on its way. So, yeah, you could end up with good to firm at other tracks, and we could end up with looking near soft ground by the time they go to post. So just bear that in mind when you're having a bet. And, in regards to Swinton, West Cork, he's the class angle, isn't he? When you come into it, he's been running well all season, won the Greatwood. You look back at his county hurdle run, I mean, that was a terrific performance, wasn't it? Off level weights to State Man. Wasn't beaten all that far behind him. Obviously, State Man's gone on to win and dine at the top level since. So his form will look rock solid, but it's always that question, isn't it, Joe? End of a long season. How much more petrol is there left in the tank? So I thought it was a tricky one. Funny enough, I actually thought the Dan Skelton second string would be one to have a look at here. Cabot Cliffs. Lightly race sort, has had a wind operation since last seen. Clearly did not stay 2.5 miles on the 2 times they've tried that trip. Back down to the minimum distance, down to marker 129. But again, I harp on about the ground. It may not end up being that testing, but all this individual's best form has come when the word soft has been predominant in the going description. So, Sean Bowen on board around 20-1. He'd be my each way play. Just those at the top of the market, obviously, you've got the Scottish champion hurdle form with Anna Barina in again there. Anna Barina has a £5 penalty, but Mark McDonough claims 5 to negate that rise in the weights, if you like. It's just, again, question marks about those at the top of the market. If I was going to look at a protagonist, perhaps Luttrell Lad, more likely race for the Philip Hobbs team would be those of the shorter prices I'd probably be going to, just from that freshness angle. But a horse who is fresh, who is a big price, would enjoy a bit of cutting the ground, is Cabot Cliffs for the Dan Skelton team, who are obviously doubly represented, but the yard are going great guns at present.
Well, that's it. That's what I was going to bring up, actually. The form of the Skelton yard does seem to be turning around and doing pretty well at the moment. But like you say, towards the end of the season, so these might kind of, fizzle out a little bit. Just to note as well, for viewers looking at Stephen Harris's tips as well, he's going for Severance in this race. But Vincent, over to you and your take on the Swinton hurdle.
Yeah, it's funny. I'd be agreeing with Ed here. I like this Cabo Hills, the second string of Skeltons, coming off a break. It's only a 5-year-old as well, so potential improvement there. They've got first-time cheek pieces on, which might just bring out a bit of improvement too, and it has been dropping in the weight. So at a biggish price, that definitely has a chance. But the Irish contender here, Anna Benina, definite contender again, having won the Scottish Champion Hurdle. It beat West Cork a length there. As Ed said already, it's gone up 5, but Mark McDonough, who's a very good claimer, he takes the 5 back off it, so you're off a similar rating to the last day. Anna Benina won't be far away, whatever happens again.
Great stuff. Well, hopefully that will pan out for us, and we've got some winners here on Jump to It. Next, we're going to move over to the 335 at Haydock. Now here, this one, it looks like it's going to be a pretty comfortable win, perhaps, in terms of the odds for Aldari. But Ed, anything in behind that you think could challenge this horse?
Yeah, I mean, if you take Aldari away from his beloved Ascot, is he quite the same? That would be the only stag. Look, on official figures, he holds a lot of these, doesn't he? And he should get the job done. BHA rating 114. He's got 7 or 8 pounds up his sleeve. Just take him away from Ascot. Is he quite as good? I suppose that's the worry. The one thing he should have in his favour is he loves a bit of cutting the ground. So rain arriving will be absolute music to the ears of those connections. So all in all, probably the most likely winner. But I thought Safe Voyage wouldn't be one to totally dismiss. Probably on the decline now, it has to be said. 9-year-old, but plenty of good course and distance form. Plenty of form of cutting the ground. A little pipe opener, you would have thought would have got rid of the ring rust in Doncaster, wasn't it, in the Lincoln? I think that they would have used that run as a springboard for this race, given how much good C&D form this horse has got at Haydock. So, again, it's a trappy one, this, Joe. I don't quite know what to make of it. You've got an odds-on favourite who are there, for want of a better phrase, bigger targets ahead with him. Obviously, Royal Ascot's next month. We know how much that horse loves Ascot. Will the Haggis team have him absolutely 100% first time out? Maybe they'll leave a little bit to work on with Royal Ascot in mind. I don't know. It's a straightforward answer. It's a bit of a head scratcher. So, look, not for me. I seldom get stuck into anything at 8 to 13. I'd be a tentative play on Safe Voyage on the basis that Aldari is slightly undercooked and it's away from Ascot.
And how about for you, Vincent? Do you agree with that line of thinking, or do you think Aldari should be the one to win here?
Oh, I think Aldari will win here. I'd be very disappointed if this gets beat. And obviously, they've targeted this race because of the ground. Haydock is normally a bit softer than some of the other ones. They've seen the ground. They've said, okay, we go here. This horse is much better than the opposition. That's the first thing to note. And the other thing is it won first time out at 2, it won first time out at 3, and I think it's going to do the same at 4. I'd be very disappointed if this gets beaten. I'm sure the Haggis team will too. The other one, Ed mentioned Safe Voyage. It's a 9-year-old, but it's a 4-time course and distance winner. Actually won this race in 2019. Also won on softish ground at Galway one year as well. So that'd be a horse that you could see chase home the favourite, but I'd be very disappointed if the favourite gets beat.
All right, well, let's move on and over to Lingfield. First of all, we're going to look at the Oaks trial. So here, of course, Emily Dickinson, the fancied favourite. And I know, Vincent, you're quite keen on this horse as well. So take us through your breakdown of the race.
Yeah, Aidan O'Brien is having an unbelievable week, as we've already seen with Chester. All the horses he's bringing over have all been winning. So I think Emily Dickinson wins here. She's extremely well bred. She's by Dubawi out of a mare called Chiquita, which won an Irish Oaks. The thing to note here is she ran in Leopardstown in the maiden and was a real eye catcher, finished 5th there on her second last start. And a lot of shrewd punters latched onto her the last day in Naas. She was really fancy to get off the mark. She was well backed into odds on at one stage. She took all day to win there. Now, really did take all day. She wasn't going anywhere, even up to a furlong out, but stormed home, gets up close home. This race is over an extra furlong and a half. You give her another furlong and a half in the Naas race, she wins 10 lengths is the bottom line. She was only literally hitting top stride at that stage. I think she is really good. The bare form doesn't say it. If you look at the horse that she beat in Naas, I think called Red Azalea, ran the other day in Gorn and got beaten. I wouldn't worry about that so much. It's all about her, not the opposition, and I think she's very good. I'd be very disappointed if she gets beat. I think she's one of the best of the weekend, in fairness.
I think this is actually a good time to actually look at just placing your bets as well. Don't always necessarily look at the form. Go back and watch as many races as possible. As Vincent alludes to, if this horse quickens later on in her races, maybe needs a bit more distance, that's obviously a decent piece of advice to keep in your notebook. But Ed, any kind of challenging or any difference of opinion on this race, or it is Emily Dickinson's to lose?
Yeah, normally I've got my long shot goggles on, Joe, but I'm with Emily Dickinson here. I think Vincent summed it up eloquently that she was a bit green, still a bit raw, still learning on the job last time out. But when the penny dropped, it really did in the latter stages. And, she got going when it mattered. Stout kind of middle distance pedigree, looking through the dam side of things, as Vincent said, loads of stamina on the dam side. Obviously, Chiquita was a proper middle distance type. So yeah, all in all, the Team Ballydoyle. Every time I've turned the television on to see a Chester race, has been Ryan Moore in the winners' enclosure or passing the winning line for Aidan O'Brien, and I expect that kind of vein of form to continue here. I think Emily Dickinson will take all the beating. The John Gosden filly, I'm not quite sure is up to this level. Unexposed has to be respected for the John Gosden team, but I'm with Emily Dickinson. I think she'll get the job done and book a place to Epsom next month.
And then speaking of Epsom as well, of course, we're going to look at the Derby trial next, so the 240 at Lingfield. Now here, Ed, just take us through this. Only 5 declared in this one, but Walk of Stars is your even money favourite. What do you make of it?
Yeah, indeed. Walk of Stars for the Godolphin team. It just seems to be either Ballydoyle or Godolphin these days, doesn't it? Who are just mopping up all these big races. One of those tricky ones. I wonder if Walk of Stars had a bit more in the tank than the bare margin of victory last time out at Newbury. Again, another horse who still I thought looked a bit green and inexperienced. Always just kind of doing enough to see off a stablemate who's pretty highly regarded in that 3-runner condition stakes last time out. Again, you're playing the trip angle here. I thought the horse looked as though that he was improving the further he went, but short enough for me at the prices. And I'm gonna keep on the bandwagon, the hype wagon that is Team Ballydoyle. I think United Nations. Oh crikey! If you want a horse who wants a trip, look at that Epsom run last time out. Was going up and down on the spot at the 2 pole. I mean, he's beaten just under 2 lengths at the end, but went fourth at the line. Again, was only really motoring in the last kind of 50 yards. Now, whether that was just the horse was just too green and inexperienced, or still learning on the job, or whether the horse does need a proper trip, it could be a case of both of those in that sense. But again, this is a Galileo. You look through the pedigree, it's a bit of mile and 12 furlongs, but lots of middle distance as you would expect. And I expect United Nations to improve just as much as I expect the favourite to improve for this extra distance. I don't think this is cut and dried for the boys in blue, this one. I think United Nations can really rough up the Walk of Stars, who is best price, even money. United Nations is 9-2. So I'd take the 9-2 poke on this occasion.
Yeah, I'm sure you'd be glad to know as well. Stephen is backing United Nations as well. He can tip that kind of off air. But Vincent, over to you just to take your thoughts on the Derby trial at Lingfield.
Yeah, I think the first thing to take note of here is only one favourite has won this in the last 7 years. So you're dealing with a short price favourite again. There's been a lot of short price favourites beaten in this, including one at 2-5 in recent years. I'd be inclined to think that there's value somewhere in the Aidan O'Brien horse. The way his horse has been running at Chester, obviously, and he's won this race 5 times in the last 13 years. That speaks enough for itself, I suppose. For me, the favourite's too short. That's the first thing. And outside of that, then I wouldn't be surprised to see a result here, and the most likely alternative is Aidan O'Brien's.
All right, I think that sums up pretty nicely. And the last race we're going to look at is at Leopardstown on Sunday. Now, Vincent, I'll stick with you as well. Just take us through the Derby trial. Who are you basically looking at as to be the potential favourite, and also, of course, then the winner of the race?
Well, it's ended up being an Aidan O'Brien benefit over the years. He wins this almost every year. We've 7 runners this time, but there's a very high-class 7 horses. You've got, he runs Stone Age, which hacked up in Navan, and took a while to win a maiden, but when it did, it won it very well. It was 1-3 that day and won half the track. It's rated 109. You'd be expecting that to be the likely favourite, the likely winner, but there's another one in here that I'd be very keen on, is Paddy Toomey's French Claim. This is an Epsom Derby entry as well. It bolted up at Cork the last 8 now, like won unbelievably well in Cork. It comes in here with a rating of 107. It had a rating of 100 going into the race in Cork. The handicapper has put it up as a 107. Obviously, the horse is never going to run the handicap as such, but he's put it up to a 107. This could be a lot better than a 107. There's a horse in the race, Great Max of Michael O'Callaghan's, that runs in this race on Sunday. That finished third in the race in Cork. It has a rating of 105. The handicappers left that unchanged, but that finished 17 lengths behind French Claim in that race. So if you were to take this literally, and you take it that Great Max is anywhere near 105, French Claim could be a lot better than 107. And we'll get to see Paddy Toomey. His horses are really flying at the minute. Everywhere he seems to go, when they fancy one, they seem to win. I'd be very disappointed if this isn't involved. Whether it's good enough to beat the best of Aidan O'Brien's is the question. But this race has got plenty of others in here as well. You've got Duke de Sassa, the wild horse, which was third in the Ballysack Stakes. That's also an Epsom entry. That's rated 106. There's not a huge amount between quite a few of these. And Ger Lyons runs one as well called Atomic Jones, which actually beat Stone Age ahead in Leopardstown in a Grade 2 or Group 2 last year. So there's not going to be a whole lot between them. The one that might be just a step ahead of them is French Claim. All
right, well, keep that in mind then for Sunday's action. And Ed, any pointers from you looking at Leopardstown and the Derby?
No, I'm happy to leave that one out. I just thought it was interesting. Yeah, Stone Age. I mean, you've got two types of horses, and it says that Stone Age kind of galloped his rivals ragged last time out. It was a bit of an underwhelming 2-year-old at shorter trips. We saw it with Snowfall, didn't we, last year? She was no great shakes over 7 and a mile. She went up in trip and suddenly took off and improved 20 odd pounds. I'm not saying Stone Age is going to do that, but you look through his pedigree. I mean, he's bred to get 7 miles. So there'd be no surprise at all. The further they go with that horse, the better he looks. But yeah, it's a trappy encounter, definitely with notes with the view to the future, in my view.
Yeah, definitely keep that in mind for future betting. So Vincent, just take us through some other interesting races that's kind of on your mind over in Ireland this weekend.
Well, there's a couple of more interesting races in Naas now. There's one race, the Amethyst Stakes, which is a Group 3. Unfortunately, it's cut up a bit from the entry stage. We had some really good horses entered in this, including Order of Australia, which has got form with Palace Piper and Bayeed, and won at the Breeders' Cup in 2020. That doesn't run, unfortunately, and neither is the one I was very interested in, was Radeberg, which is the ex-Roger Varian horse that's joined Johnny Murta and won the Irish Lincoln and then won again in Tipperary recently. I was hoping one or both of them would run. They don't. It's cut up a bit, but we've got some interesting ones in it. This is a race that it's for older. It's for 3-year-olds and up, and there's only one 3-year-old in it. Aidan O'Brien runs a horse in it called Ivy League, which is on a hat-trick, having won at Dundalk and Naas recently. 3-year-olds have a reasonable record in this. Wouldn't be surprised to see it involved, but there's some other decent horses in it. You've Real Appeal at the top, has a penalty for winning a Group 2 last season. It beat Georgeville, which is also in the race. And then we've Patrick Sarsfield in it. So nice enough little race with 6 runners. Be interesting, but not quite what it might have been. And then we've got the other one is another Group 3 on the card at Leopardstown. It's called the Cornels Court Stakes. It's for fillies. And there's 12 in this over a mile. The interesting thing here is the top one called Agartha of Joseph O'Brien. It's rated 109. It'll be definitely towards the head of the betting, but I'm not certain this will stay. It got caught close home in a 1,000 guineas trial last month over 7 furlongs. It's also got a £3 penalty as a previous Group 2 winner. So I think, for me, on balance, I think I'd be very much against Agartha. I think something will beat that. And it's a big field. There's 3 unbeaten ones in it. Admittedly, they've only had 1 run each, but there's plenty of depth in it, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her beat. I think things are against her over the trip.
I think the key takeaway as well for this weekend is just that there's so much racing involved, so plenty to look out for on Irish racing. But hopefully we're going to have some winners for you now, and it's our tips of the week. So Ed, I'll start with you and your tips of the week. Which way are you going? I think you've covered some of them already, but let's take us through your selections for the weekend.
Yeah, I'm sticking with the jumps, Joe. Haydock, the Swinton hurdle card is brilliant. The aforementioned Swinton hurdle. Obviously, Dan Skelton has Cabot Cliffs. Cabot Cliffs as his second string, as West Cork is his first string. I think there's a bit of 20-1 flying around with Cabot Cliffs. That would be my each-way play there. As we said, down in the weights, bit of rain forecast, had the wind up, cheap pieces on for the first time. I just think is a bit overpriced on early season form. And in the race before that, another Dan Skelton horse. So I'm hoping it's a big afternoon for the Warwickshire handler. Proshima runs in that 3-mile handicap hurdle. This horse hasn't been seen since Cheltenham's November meeting. He was absolutely tanking coming to 2 out in the 3-mile race won by Sporting John on that occasion. So obviously a little bit of a worry. Clearly got a little bit of a setback and to come back after that. But we know Dan Skelton team, they've got an unbelievable record with their handicappers when sending them out fresh. If anything, it's probably a blessing in disguise that he's missed the heat of the kind of spring battles, if you like. And if you go back to his penultimate run in the West Yorkshire Hurdle, well, he had a certain Paisley Park behind him on that occasion. Crikey, if he can run to that level again here off 1:45, I think he will not be far away. He's 11-2 poke. He'll do for me. There is an argument. I think he's 11-2 joint favourite. Shop around, check your each way concessions, but I think some firms going 6 places, 11-2. I'd be very disappointed if he couldn't fill the top 6, put it that way.
Lovely stuff. Well, best of luck to you, Ed, and thanks a lot for your views on today's show. Vincent, take it away with your tips of the weekend, please.
Okay, I'm going for 2 fillies this weekend. The first one is Emily Dickinson, which we've mentioned already. I'd be very disappointed if she doesn't win. I think the trip is the key to her. The penny was only beginning to drop both in Leopardstown and the last day, and I think she'll have learnt a lot from those 2 races, particularly winning in Naas, getting up close home to win in Naas. I think the extra furlong and a half is the key to her. I'll be very disappointed if she doesn't win. I think she's a very good price at 15-8. I don't think she'll end up in that sort of price on the day. And then the second one is Roodee, which runs in a handicap at Naas, the 5:05 on Saturday. This is very interesting. This is an Aga Khan horse, trained by Dermot Weld. What's interesting here is there's several things interesting. The first one is she's a 3-year-old filly, and the race after this is a 3-year-old handicap, which she would have most likely run in, you would have thought. But instead, and that's a 45,000 euro race, instead she goes for this race, which is a 12.5 grand race for open to 3-year-olds and older horses. He runs her here instead. All the rest of them are generally exposed types that have been around the block many a time. She goes the last day. She wins a maiden over this course and distance. She wins well over the course and distance the last day. He goes for this race, which looks like an easy opportunity for her, I think. And she's after getting a plum draw in 2. You definitely need a low draw, particularly when the ground is reasonable, as in not very heavy. You need a low draw number in those sprints in Naas. And this is a big field sprint. She's drawn 2. I'll be very disappointed if she doesn't win.
Well, best of luck as well to you, Vincent. Thanks a lot for your tips. And also thanks a lot to everyone watching as well. That wraps it up for today's edition of Jump To It on irishracing.com. Feel free to comment below with your predictions for the weekend. Plenty of racing to be had. We'll be back on Monday to review the action and look ahead to next week's action as well. But for now, thanks a lot for watching. And of course, if you do place a bet, please do gamble responsibly.